Hello class. Today we're going to create a small visual or C# program, not Visual Studio, but C# program at the command prompt and run it so that we can see some really basic things. I'm looking at our textbook at page 23 and they show us the same Hello World program 3 times. First in C#, next in Visual Basic, and lastly in C++. So there is some small differences in the syntax of the languages, but they're talking about .NET here. And I want you to notice that all of these .NET languages use the same namespace in system, and they use that namespace to get to the console class. And they'll use a write line method in the console class. So actually they're fairly similar. For us though, we're going to be focusing on C#, so we're going to use this little example of a program to write at the command prompt. So because you've installed Visual Studio, you should have access to the developer command prompt. This command prompt just opens in the correct folder to use the Visual Basic or Visual Studio tools and gives you an opportunity to do command prompt things. I'm going to find it on my start menu. It's under Developer Command Prompt for Visual Studio 2017. Now when you open that, you'll see the nice prompt info. I'm going to increase my font a little bit here. Complains at me, but it works. So we're in this folder now, buried within our program files. Microsoft Visual Studio. I wanted to create a little Hello World program file here. When we're working with C#, our program source files are always a .cs file type. So let's create that by opening a file in Notepad. We'll call our file hello world.cs. And we're ready to press enter. Now I've got a message over here on the other monitor that asks me if I want to create that file, and I'm going to say yes. I hope that didn't deafen you from that desktop noise. Now here we have our file, and I want to add some code so that I can make this thing run. Now looking at that example in our textbook, the first line, I'm going to put a couple comments and comments in C#. For full line comments, we can use 2/ characters. So I'm going to say this is on page 23 of our C# Pro textbook. That's it for comments. For this one, we'll be pretty quick and to the point. We need that using statement that says what namespace library we're going to pull some code from. We're going to use the system. And then all of our C# programs are going to be contained within a class. We use the class statement to define that. We'll be looking at that a lot more in the future, so don't worry about it too much right now. Just know that the class statement is something that you must have. And in this class statement, we've named the class My App. So that's the name of it. Now, my class must be contained within a pair of curly braces. So I'm going to put the opening curly brace. In C#, the convention is to put the opening curly brace on its own line. It's a little bit different than in Java. Can fight back and forth about the conventions, but as an instructor, of course, I always try to use the key convention that's appropriate for the given language. So I will try to adhere to that opening curly brace on its own line. Now I want to indent. And this code again, for right now, is something that we always have to have. We're going to have static void main. This is our main method. And our main method is going to be coded like this. for the short term. Now our main method also has to be enclosed within a set of curly braces. So I'm going to indent this opening curly brace the same level of indentation that I indented my method definition within the class statement. And again, don't worry, be looking at those a lot. Right now we're just trying to get this code written appropriately so that it runs and see how it works on the command line. Now I want to use a C# command that's in the console class. And the command I want to use is the write_line command. The write_line command accepts input as a parameter for what should be written to the command line, the console. So for this program, I want to write out the message, "Hi from C#." Notice my message is a string, so it's enclosed within double quotes. And that whole string is enclosed within these parentheses so that the write_line command sees that that is what is going to be output. We'll look at this program in the Visual Studio IDE next week, and the color coding will help a little bit differentiate some of these different areas of code. For now though, we're just going to hack through it. Now this is my one line of actual C# code in this program, so I'm going to end it with a semicolon. The other lines of code that we've put in so far have ended with an opening curly brace, if you notice that. So that's why they didn't need a semicolon. They are commands that have bodies. This command just stands on its own. Now I want to close out my main method. So I'm going to put my closing curly brace again at the same indentation level as the opening mate, and then I'm going to close out my class with another closing curly brace. Take a look at that really closely. Notice that, first of all, our using statement comes at the top, specifies what different frameworks we're going to be using, or namespaces in the .NET nomenclature. Then we have the class statement, which names this instance of code as my app. Our class statement has a body that's enclosed within opening and closing curly braces. The only thing within the body of this class is the main method. The main method has some required code here that we'll again be looking at, and a name, main. Then it has an open and close parenthesis. After the set of opening and closing parentheses, we have the body, which is again enclosed within a set of curly braces. So notice we have a lot of beginnings and endings in C#, and as long as we keep our beginnings and endings straight and matching up, things will work properly. Now, if we've got everything ready to go here, let's save this. I want to close this file. I'm going to click Save As because I don't know if it saved it right since my file is not properly titled in the title bar. So I'm going to choose Save As. Oh, I must have had a security issue with saving in this folder. So I think that I'm going to save it instead on my C drive. And in my C drive, I'm going to create a folder. Let me delete this one, it's left over. So let's create a new folder called C#. And I want to name my file hello world.cs. I don't want my file to be named, oops, I need to go into my C# folder, Now I don't want my file to be named .cs.txt, so I'm going to choose this drop down and click on All Files so that Notepad acknowledges my extension of .cs for the save. And I'm going to click Now we created this file using the command prompt. We just opened a notepad from the command prompt and typed in our code. I'm going to close the file now. And I would like to run this program. So before I can run it, I need to compile it. As you read through the information in your text, you'll see that there are different compilers available for these different languages. I get up to a lot of information for you about the different namespaces and how you can access them programmatically. So there's some additional program samples here for you. So eventually in there, they will talk about using the compiler. The information is also available in Canvas. In our course. Under week 1, for our Hello World project assignment, there is some information that will help us. Here's my full command I used to compile. All I really need right now is the CSC part, I'm hoping. Let's try it. So, trying to make it a little different. CSC hello world.cs. Now, I wasn't able to save my Hello World file in this folder, so I need to give the CSC command some path information to be able to find my C# file. So I'm going to issue the command again, CSC, and this time I want to say find the file in my C drive, and I'm going to use a colon and a backslash to indicate the folder name, C#, another backslash, and my file name. Well, it's just giving me all sorts of trouble, isn't it? I have it open in Notepad, so I'm going to try closing it. And I can just press the right up arrow to bring up the last command I entered. So I'll do that, it's pretty handy. Well, it's not liking me at all, so I think what I'm going to do instead is that awful command that I gave you. So I'm going to exit here from the developer and open my file explorer. And I want to open that C# folder where we saved our program. So I'm going to go to my C drive and my C# folder. And there's my hello world.cs file. So I'm in the right place. So I'm going to click up here in the address bar and type cmd to just open a command prompt in that C# folder. I'll increase my font here. I'm going to go back to Canvas and get that full command and copy it and paste it into my command prompt window. Now notice this path name is much longer than what we were looking at when we opened that developer command prompt window. This is where I found this information on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Now, if you have trouble running the C# compiler on your computer, that's fine because we can test this program using our Hypergrade in just a moment. So if it's not working for you, don't get frustrated. We're just doing this one time and we'll just be able to move on to Hypergrade. Just want to show you that it's possible and you can do it, but it's not near as fun as easy as using the Visual Studio IDE. Okay, full path name enclosed in double quotes, and then the name of my program to compile. Let's compile it. Ah, that's better. Now our program has been compiled. Now if I look at my File Explorer window in my C# folder, I see that I do have an exe file now for my Hello World app. So I can run that at my command prompt by typing the name, Hello World, and there's my output. Hi from C#. I could also type helloworld.exe, of course, and get the same output. All right, so a little painful. Don't worry, things aren't going to be like that. We just want to see how to do it the hard way, so people like it that way. Now I'm going to close out of this command prompt, and let's go to Hypergrade. Now you'll find instructions for setting up Hypergrade in your setup module. And you'll find like our course code and all that kind of information in the Hypergrade course information setup. I'm going to go to Hypergrade and sign in. And I want to go to our course and let me see somewhere I can be a student. One thing that I didn't mention in Hypergrade, you have late day passes, 7 of them. So you can use those and turn in assignments with your late day passes and they won't be counted as late. All right, so now I'm in as a test student. I don't know why it's complaining at me about all of these things. They're not due yet, right? So yours hopefully doesn't look like this. This is what I'm seeing is my test student. So if you click on the link for Hypergrade and you've got your Hypergrade account all set up, you should see something like this. And if you click on the Hello World assignment itself, you'll see all of the descriptive information about the assignment, instructions and everything for you. Then you can view the required output. Now for this program, your output needs to be a little bit different than the console program that we just did. So we'll have to make a few changes. We'll let you do that on your own. I'll just show you how to submit it. Now here's the required output. I could copy this from here and paste it into my code. Notice you don't need to do anything about creating this \n. It will happen automatically from the write line statement. It will issue the new line control code. So that'll be output for you automatically. Now I'm going to click on turn in because I'm ready. I want to submit this. Now I can drag my files, or I could click and use a file manager to upload my files. I've got my C# folder open, so I'm just going to drag my CS file. That's the only one I need. It was a notepad file at this point. That's how I created it. So I'm just going to drag my helloworld.cs file into Hypergrade. It shows up here that it's been uploaded. I can click the X if I want to get rid of it, and I can click the test code button to have Hypergrade test my code. Now I got a fail here. It says, first of all, your output is too short. Well, that's true. Hypergrade is expecting this, and this is what it got. So you'll need to fix your helloworld.cs file to output this message instead of this message. You can change it using Notepad. You don't have to use the command prompt. It's fine for you to just use Notepad from your file manager and get that program fixed so that it matches this required output. You're going to upload your new version, test it, upload your new version, and test it. Now, if you run into an error or something that is confusing to you, it could really slow you down. So let's take a look at what would happen or what it would look like if that happened. I'm going to just right-click on this file and edit it. If I have an error, for example, I forget my semicolon, when I click test code, I'm going to see this error message. What's it telling me? First of all, a semicolon was expected. For this program, the only line of code that expects a semicolon is our console.writeLine statement. Whoops, that time it used Visual Studio. I knew that was going to happen. So if that happens to you, you can close out of Visual Studio until we take a look at it later, or if you've already used it, you're just good to go. Now I want to right-click again, and I'll just edit it. And I'll put my semicolon back in and save it. If we looked at those numbers that Hypergrade is showing us, let's check line numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's not exactly the line that we got an error on, right? But it's the line after. And when Hypergrade ran into this closing curly brace, it knew that it had been missing a semicolon because it hadn't seen one yet. It's like, wait, I should have seen a semicolon. So that's why that line number said 10. So I fixed it. And I go back to my problem that my output is too short. Hypergrade will highlight in pink the output that doesn't match. So just take a real careful look and see if you can figure it out. Study groups work together, help each other, make sure that everybody has a good opportunity to get this done. Great, thanks.